It's Becky, and I wanted to make a couple of bracelets today. One of the things that I've been trying to do is figure out what to make with the Beads to Live By Curated Collections, which, if you don't know, you get, it's a monthly subscription. You can get these 11 seed beads that are all curated to match and go with a theme. And then you can also subscribe to the 2-hole beads collection, which I think is the same every month. You get some Tila beads, you get some pyramids, you get some silkies, you get some lentils, and you get these 2-hole daggers. I don't know if you can see the second hole there, but you get all those. And then there's optional like add-on bundles for this month. This is this month's curated collection. For this month, I opted to get the fire polish add-on bundle, and they all go together really well. But being fairly new to seed beading, I wasn't sure what to make with them. So I decided I wanted to try and make some bracelets. These are bracelets that I made with last month's curated collection. This bracelet I made with the silky beads. These 11 were from last month's curated collection. These were from the add-on, these Czech glass crystals here. And the 15 the gold 15 and these amethyst AB finish super duos. Those are from my own bead collection, and button is also from my own button stash. It's just a wooden bead, but I followed a tutorial for this, and I will link the tutorial that I followed in my description. I basically followed the tutorial as it was, except that I used these fire polish beads instead of pinch beads. It uses the pinch beads in the tutorial, but I didn't have any. So I used this, but it got me thinking, like with these silky beads, that I could use them in other ways. And so I made this very simplified bracelet with just things that were in the curated collection. Just the 11 seed beads, just the silkies, and just the lentils. And there's a lot to be said for simple and what is the word? Minimalist designs. I quite like it. It doesn't have all of the embellishments. And one of the reasons you do embellishments is to reinforce your bead weaving. So when I did this, I decided that instead of using thread for it, I was going to use beading wire. Because that way I wouldn't have to go back through and do the reinforcing, and I could just do a single pass with that. And so I'm going to be making another one of these today and show you how I made that. But also I'm going to make a second one with beading thread, and I'm going to go back over and I'm going to embellish it. I'm not going to do the same kind of embellishing that I did with this one. It's going to be different, but I thought that would be a great idea for me because since these are kind of sister bracelets, they actually look really good stacked and worn together. And so I wanted to make some sister bracelets out of this month's curated collection. So for that, I'm going to put away the beads that I'm not using. I am not going to be using these 2-hole beads. I will be using these AB finish clear silkies and these like turquoise and green lentils. I think they're really beautiful. And then I'm going to probably be using these seed beads for the one that I do embellishments on, and these for the plain version. And then for the embellishment, I'm going to be adding these fire polish beads. These are the 3mm fire polish beads. They've got this really pretty like chartreuse color, and then like they're half coated with AB finish, so it's just some of them, but they give a lot of sparkle to that. So I think that's what I'm going to be making with. I'm going to put the rest of these away and move them out of the way. I also wanted to talk a little bit about my beadboard. I get questions when I do these about my beadboards, and I have several different types that I use. Like I've got bead on it boards, I've got just plain like kind of floppy mats like this. But this one in particular is one that I kind of, I bought two different things to make it. One is this felt mat, and I'll put the links for the pieces that I used for this in the description as well if you wanted to make one. And then I bought this, it's just a bamboo tray, and it's a little bit larger than the size of the mat. But that way I could put it right in the bottom of it and then have room over here for some of my things. Like I can put the beads that I'm not using over here, and I can have some of my tools over here on the side and have it be part of, like, when I pick it up and put it on my lap, it's right there and it's easy to use. And all I did to make this was I got some hot glue and I just glued all around the edges of this to attach it and adhere it to the tray. And it's pretty useful because, like, you've got a channel back here that you can put some of the beads and keep them out of the way, as well as your little pockets once you get the beads out off of their strands, so you can have all of the different pieces where they need to be. It has a ruler here, which is great. If you notice here, I've got a little line marked here. This is my, for me, the minimum length for a bracelet. So as long as I can have it be that long, then I'm pretty good. I also made markings along these channels. You start here with the channels and then you can build up from there for either side. And this is the minimum length for a choker size necklace for me. A little bit longer right here gets me to a place where, like, a pendant may hang right at my décolletage. So it's it's useful for me to have these markings on this board for that. But I'm going to go ahead and get out my beads and get ready, and then we will get started on this. Now for my stringing material, let me go over my materials again before I do that. So I'm going to use these seed beads. I'm going to be using the silkies. I'm going to make two necklaces with the silkies and the lentils, or not two necklaces, two bracelets with the silkies and the lentils. One of them is just going to be a simple one, and I'm going to use these and the green. The other one is going to be embellished, so I'm going to use the blue seed beads and the green Czech glass beads as the embellishment. For the one that's going to be embellished, I'm going to be using 6-pound Fireline in the crystal color. Probably with these colors, a green Fireline would look really great as well, but this was close to hand, so I'm going to be using this for my bead weaving. And then for the simplified one, I'm just going to do the same thing I did with this, where I used beading wire so that I don't have to go back and reinforce it, and it's ready to go. And for that, I'm going to use the Soft Flex Extreme Flex metallic fine in sterling silver. So we're going to use that. For my simplified version, my closure is going to be a loop like this, and I'll show you how to close that up at the end, and a lobster claw. For my embellished version, I am going to be using this button that I pulled out of, I inherited my aunt's bead and button stash. And since this reminds me of the ocean, I'm gonna use this tropical flavored button as my closure. And then we'll do a loop at the other end like this to go around it. This is a loop with 15 O's. I'm going to use 11 O's because I'm going to use just what came in the curated collection plus my closures. Basically the closures and the stringing material is the only things that did not come in either the curated collections or the add-on bundles for this, because, you know, I've been like, what do I make with this? I've been kind of wondering what to do with it. And there's not a ton of tutorials on using silky beads. I don't think that there's anything really revolutionary about having two parallel strands of beading medium going through two whole beads with some seed beads in between. So it is a simple, basic design for this, which probably people who are used to bead weaving and have done it plenty of other times probably have done it before, but I've only been doing it for maybe a year and a half, something like that. So it's not something that I'm super familiar with. And usually, like, I haven't been left to my own devices with bead weaving a lot because I get Potomac beads, their best bead box, and I got the one that the XL, so that there were like 2 kits in each of those. And for the most part, I just did the kits. I didn't, make extra stuff with the extra stash beads that they sent. So when they switched to kits only for that, I was like, yes, I can do this. And that's one of the reasons why I subscribed to the Beads to Live By, was because, okay, I've got my kits coming. I can still learn new techniques and do things like that. But I was feeling like I could start challenging myself with coming up with some things to make on my own with these beads that we get from there. So that is why I'm sharing this, is because if you are new to bead weaving like I am, you may be a little bit at a loss as well and saying, okay, I've got all these really great beads. What do I make with them? And this is a really simple project, and you can probably do this with the other months that are going to be coming up and have a really great time with it. I'm just using some wire cutters in order to cut the plastic strand that these are on, in order to decant them and get them into their little spots on my bead board. Alright, so I've got room for 2 more things. And then I can start working on stringing. But gosh, look at these really fun lentils. I love them. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really, really pretty. And there are so many that they don't even all fit in here. I'm going to co-opt some of my other one over here to put these in, because after I get these like strung or bead woven or something, they're going to there won't be as many, but there still will be some. Now for this, for the length that I chose for this, that works for me, which is 7.5 inch, almost 8. It uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It uses 12 silkies. And that's how I know that I can do 2 of these, because there are 25 silkies on the strand that comes with the thing. So I can make 2 of these and still have 1 left over. If you have larger wrists, larger than the 7 or 8 inches, you may need to use 13, in which case you could only make 1 of these versions. If you have smaller ones, you might have some left over, and you could, I don't know, use them with some earrings or another project. Okay, so yeah, we are getting this all ready to go. So I'm going to start these and show you how to start them, and then I'm gonna let you time travel into the future to where I'm nearly at the end of the first pass and show you how to make the loops. So for the stringing materials, I have cut a length of my beading wire. This is the Soft Flex beading wire, and for the length, I'm cutting about the size of the bracelet that I want, doubled, plus a little extra. So for this, it's about 18 inches. So there's going to be some excess that I'm going to need to cut off on the end, but I'd rather cut off some excess than have to restring the whole thing in order to do that. And because this is beading wire, I am not going to be attaching needles to this. For the beading thread, I went ahead and cut off a wingspan's length of the wildfire beading thread, and it's just 6-pound beading thread. You can see there. And I've attached each end to beading needles. So I'm going to be working with 2 needles at the same time. And I've gone ahead and strung them on there. I use these wide eye beading needles usually because it's just so much easier for me to string a thread onto that. So I've got these ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the one that I'm using the sewing with the needles for, the thread. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and pick up this button because that's going to be at the very end of this, and I'm going to slide this right to the very middle of where my button is. And then I'm going to pick up 5 11-ohs on each needle. So let's see if I can remember which one I'm using for this. I think I'm using this one because I'm going to be using the green for that. So I'm going to pick up 5 11-ohs. Where am I going? Come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, why aren't you letting me pick you up? 1, 2, 3. They're being awkward. I'm going to move them over here because it's just going to be easier for me to pick them up that way. 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I kind of feel like this is just going to be counting with Becky today. So I've got that on my right needle, and then I'm going to pick up my left needle and do the same thing. I cannot pick up beads with my left hand, so I am not going to be doing this on video where I pick up with one and then pick up with the other. I'm going to be setting my needles down in order to pick up the different needles. All right, so got my needles there. I'm going to scooch these all the way down to the end right there, so they are on either side of this button there. And then I'm going to grab this needle and I am going to put both needles through that one 11-oh. And they're both going to be going the same way so that the threads come out the same way, and it kind of chokes that down. So that is going to hold this button in place. And we're going to come back when we come back down after the embellishment and reinforce this. So I'm fine with this being a little loosey-goosey right now because we're going to come back and reinforce it at the end of this project. So to get us started, I am going to pick up 2 11-ohs on each needle and slide them down to the end. And they are not going to be the same 11-ohs. They will be separate 11-ohs. So 2 on that side. I'm going to try it with my left hand. Let's see if it works. 1, 2. Ha-ha! Look at that! Look what I can do. And then I'm going to slide them down to the end so that I have my 5, that one that they're both going through, and then 2. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to pick up one of the lentils, and I'm just going to put both needles through different holes, not through the same holes. Come on, mister. What are you doing? So 1, 2, right and left, but through different holes. slide it down to the end. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more 11-0s on each needle. Come on. That's 3. All right, so I got 1, 2, and I'm going to now grab a silky bead, and I'm going to put 1 needle through each hole on the silky, like so. So I'm going to continue this pattern for the entire length of the bracelet. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, a lentil, 2 11-0s, a silky, 2 11-0s, a lentil, 2 11-0s, a silky, all the way until I get to approximately the length that I want it to be. We're going to keep going until I am at or just before 7 inches. So I'm going to probably stop that part of the pattern about here when I get to it. So that's the start of the bead weaving with thread and a button for a closure. I'm going to set this aside right now so I can show you how to start the bead wire and lobster clasp one. So with this, I'm just going to kind of fold it in half so I know where the center is, and I'm going to string the lobster clasp along. Now you could use a crimp tube at this point to crimp it on there. I'm just going to do the same thing I did with this, and I'm going to put some 11-0s on here. So I'm going to pick up 5 11-0s on each strand, on each side, on each of these, 5 11-0s. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scooch those down, and then 5 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting with Becky. That's what we're doing. All right, so I've got both of these, and it's pretty much starting the same way. It's just a different attachment, and it's a different medium, but you can do this with either one. So I'm going to put these together to string the 11-0 on both of these going in the same direction. And I'm going to slide that 11-0 down there at the bottom, and it's going to bounce back. It's going to, because it's a stiffer medium than the string, it'll bounce back, so you may have to push it down a few times as you're working with it, but it's okay to kind of let it go while you string the rest of these on. And I'm going to do the same pattern as I did for this, where I have 2 11-0s, a lentil, 2 11-0s, a silky, 2 11-0s, a lentil, 2 11-0s, a silky, and I'm going to string it all the way until I hit that 7 inches. I'm going to keep going with that, and then I will show you how to make a loop at the end for your lobster clasp when we get to that point. So you guys sit back, enjoy the time travel, and I'm going to get these built out for you to watch in a minute. Okay, so welcome, people of the past. I hope the future is as wonderful and exciting as you would hope it would be. I have completed most of the stringing for both of my bracelets, for the initial stringing anyway. For the base on my bead woven embellished one that I'm using bead weaving thread on, I have it as long as I want it to be, and I am ready to start the closure on the other end, the loop on the other end, and then start going back. So I'm going to set this aside so that I can complete the one that I'm using beading wire with for my simplified version. And for this, you do all of these repeats. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 repeats, which remember I had said 12 for this, but I think the seed beads in this box, these ones are different because it took 12 of these to get the same length that I got with 11. So, you know, definitely measure them because with different seed beads, it might be shorter or it might be longer, depending on how you're doing with that. It's funny that that it would do that, but that's why you want to measure it. Anyway, so you want to end with a lentil and then add 2 seed beads on each strand, because we're going to make it match this end here where you've got like the lentil and then 2 seed beads and then the one in the middle. So I'm going to be doing that, but on this end because symmetry. And I'm thinking I cut these a little bit short, but they should still be workable. I can still finish this bracelet as long as I don't send my beads a-flying. There's the other one over there. Okay, so now I've got my 2 seed beads on each strand, like so. I'm going to put both strands through the same seed bead going in the same direction in order to bring them together. Come here, mister. Okay. It's always a little bit tricky. And I moved the camera a little bit closer because this is sort of a fiddly bit and I'd like for you to be able to see it. So now we have this end here. And for this part, you're gonna need a crimp tube or a crimp. You can use any kind of crimp you want. If you use a regular crimp that you flatten with a crimping tool or pliers, you're going to want a crimp cover so that it doesn't scratch your wrist. I'm choosing to use these 2x2 crimp tubes in silver. I really like the soft flex crimp tubes because they hold their shape really well. And I'm going to be using a magic crimping tool because it just makes a nice round crimp that it flattens out the edges so you don't have anything scratching your wrist and you don't have to use a crimp cover. And boy, that's a lot of crimps. So I'm just gonna put the rest of these back in the bag because I don't need all of them. I only need one of them. You could, when you go to crimp this, you could attach a jump ring to it or an extender chain or any of those things. I'm just going to make a loop with my wire, and I'll attach my lobster clasp that way, just because it's simple and easy, and that way I don't have to go find jump rings to do this. All right. So we slide our crimp down to the end, and then I'm going to bend both of these over and put it back through that crimp and the first seed bead right there, that last seed bead that I added. I want both ends going through both of those. So why are you getting stuck up? It might be a little bit of a tight fit, but you can do it. I believe in you. For all 4 strands. Buddy. There it is. just barely. Okay, so I've got both of these. And now I want both of these strands to be the same length when I go through and tighten this. So I'm going to grab a round something to put this around. You can use a paintbrush, you could use a knitting needle, you can use anything you want that'll give it, that'll make it so it doesn't go all the way through that in order to tighten this up and make it flush. So I'm just gonna stick my knitting needle in there and pull on both of these until it evens up. And tightens up. You might have to do them separately, but I just want it to be the same length for my cord. All right, like that. And then I can crimp my crimp, and this bracelet will be done. Well, it'll be done after I clip off my excess, because there will be some excess wire in there. Pro tip, don't crimp the 11-0, crimp the crimp bead. Oh boy, I almost did that just now. That would not have been pretty. I mean, it might have been. There's a little cavity in here, so it might have fit in there. You never know. All right, so I'm going to use my flush cutters and cut off the excess wire here. And now I have a bracelet that is a simple bracelet made with the Curated Collection 2-hole beads from this month with Silkies and Lentils. Okay, so I'm going to put this away just over here on the side and these tools away. And now we are going to make the loop for the closure on this. I'm basically going to be stringing enough 11-0s to fit around this button in a loop so that when it closes, it'll stay closed, but I can still open and close it fairly easily without the buttons, without it getting caught on the button. So to do that, I need to restring my needles. The reason the needles, wait, is that the reason the needles are off? I can't remember. Gotta get my needles back on here. So let's get them on these wide eye needles. And this is why I like the wide eye needles. It's just way easier for me as a person who maybe my fingers aren't that nimble. I fat finger a lot of stuff. I fumble things, and I've been threading needles since I was like 4, and my mom first taught me how when she was teaching me how to do embroidery. But beading needles have eyes that are really, really small, and beading thread is kind of thick. So it's a little more difficult for me. I've learned a couple of good tricks that might help, but for the most part, this just makes it easier for me. And so that's what I'm going to keep using. All right, so I've got my 2 here. I need to bring them together with one 11-0. So they're all coming out the same way. Again, mirroring this end. So I've got the 2 11-0s and then one that they both go through. So I need to just get one that these both go through. And I'm just putting that on both needles together. I just smushed them right next to each other. You don't have to do it that way, but sometimes it's easier for me to do it that way. All right, and now I'm going to string on some beads. I'm thinking I'm gonna start with 10, see how long that gets me. And I'm only going to be using one needle for this because the other needle will go back through the other direction to reinforce it. So let's start with 10 of these and we'll see how long that is. It'll probably end up being like, I don't know, 18, 19 seed beads, something like that. But I'm not really great at guesstimating these things, so that's why we count. So get ready for more counting with Becky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just want to see how wide that is. Okay, so maybe 20 will do. Let me do a few more and we'll see, like if it's too big, I can always take off an extra seed bead, but it doesn't really, like too big is going to be subjective because it just needs to slip around it. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to pop off if it's super loose. I think I'd need like 40 of them for it to be super loose. All right, so that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So part of it too is that there's some space on the side that also needs to be accounted for. So I am going to take these and bend them around and see how that fits my button. And because you're probably going to be using a different size button than I am, you're going to be wanting to do the same thing. So it looks like I need to add about 2 or 3 more seed beads to that. Yeah, I think 2. Let's add 2, see where that gets us. Bloop, 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 bloop. Buttons are fun, aren't they? I love buttons. All right. Now, this is big enough to go around, and there's even room for me to have it come together on the other side. So it looks like 22 was my magic number after all. And now that I've got that going this direction, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back down into this, through this 11-0, these 2 11-0s, and this lentil, and I'm just going to pull the needle through so that it curves around, and then I'm going to take the other needle and go back through the other way in the other direction. To reinforce it. So here's my other needle. So this needle right here came up this side, around, and then down. So I'm going to go up through it, around, and then down through the other side. I'm just going to go a few at a time because there's a curve. And when I get through all the way to the end, this will be reinforced at that point. So let me go all the way through here. Tighten that up a little bit. Right through here. Okay, and then through this 11-0. And I'm going to go down through this side instead of this side because that's the way the other one went through. And then through my lentil. All right. Now we we can start going back down it in order to reinforce it. We'll go back down along the sides in order to add embellishments, and it will also reinforce this with all of these. So I'm going to plop this needle down here, my bottom needle, if we're going along here, and I'm going to do my embellishment just along one side to the end so that I can just go along this way, and then after I'm done embellishing this one side, I'll go through and embellish the other side. Okay, so we're ready to begin the embellishment on this. So I've got my thread coming out of this. I'm going to call this the top side and the bottom side of my thing, and I'm just going to be working along the top side. So I have it coming out of the top side hole on my lentil. I'm going to pass through the 2 seed beads between the lentil and the silky, and I'm going to come out of the silky bead. I'm not going to come out of these other 2 seed beads. And we're going to go all the way through, pull our thread through, and see that reinforces and tightens things up. So for the embellishment, I am going to add, let me grab some of these out so that I can pick them up easily. I'm going to grab 1 lentil, 1 3mm fire polish crystal, or sorry, that's not a lentil, 1 11-0, 1 fire polish crystal, 1 11-0, 1 fire polish crystal, and 1 11-0. So we've got a total of 3 11-0s on our needle with 2 fire polish crystals between them. And then we're just going to go right into the silky bead and then right out of that hole on the silky bead. And this does a little arc along the side of the bracelet like that, along the outside of it. And these beads can bump right up next to each other and be fun and happy. So now I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to grab 1 11-0, 1 fire polish, 1 11-0, 1 fire polish, and 1 11-0. Like that. I'm going to sew right into that silky bead and out of it again. And I'm going to do this all the way along this top side. And when I get down to the bottom of this, I'm going to leave my needle alone. I'm going to pick up my needle on the other side and sew along and do the exact same thing on the other side. So time for some time travel again, guys. And I will see you when I've finished this and we get down to the bottom so I can show you how to reinforce the button, and then we'll tie it off and burn off our edges, and we will have a completed bracelet at that point. So I'll meet you at the bottom of this and see you in a little bit. Okay, so here we are at the end. You can see I have added my embellishment along both sides. Here's just a close-up of how that looks. I like it because it took something where on the simple bracelet, the silky is kind of dominant. It is like the big deal bead, and then it made it just an accent and not as dominant when we added our embellishment here to the top. So what I've got coming out of the end here is I finished my embellishment here on the other side, and I've got my strands both coming out of my silky. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work with one strand at a time up here at the end, and I am going to run my needle up through here around the button and then back down the other side, and I'm going to bring it out here just beneath this middle bead here. And I may probably run it through a second time after that, just to add some additional reinforcement. So I'm going to go all the way up. Whoop. That side. And then through that center one, up through these ends. Just want to reinforce this so the button doesn't fall off after some wearing. These particular 11/0s have some fairly angled edges, so it might rub on the thread a bit as it's going through. I'm going to put this back down through here. Oh, so that I can bring it up again. No, actually, I'm going to leave this strand on its own. I'm actually going to take the needle off so it's not flopping around and poking me and making me bleed. Blood, sweat, and tears in this one. So I'm going to leave that strand there, and I'm going to reinforce with this one, going back up through these two 11/0s here, these two 11/0s here, up through that, the middle 11/0, and then we're going to start up on this side, and we're going to go around the other direction. Hold on. There we go. Come on, buddy. This is why is this so difficult? There we go. Go into the beads. All right. Through the beads. And then down through the other side. I believe right here at the bottom where they join, it's a nice tight place for this to go. This is where I'm going to tie off my work. I think that is pretty well secured, so I'm going to take my needle off. I'm going to tie. A lot of people like to do square knot. I like to do a surgeon's knot, where it's like a square knot, but then on your second pass, you just wrap it around twice. And then tighten that up. All right, and so you can burn off your ends here, or you can take the end and run it through a couple more beads so it's not right next to where the knot is. I'm just gonna, whoop. That wasn't right. Here we go. I'm gonna do that just so that I don't have ends close to where the knot is, in case the knot decides to come undone, although usually they don't. I'm just gonna have it come out here. Looks like a good place for that thread to come out. All right. My thread is getting caught on the beads. I'm gonna need you to knot. Can you not? There we go. Bloop, and that is done there. Let me cut these off, burn down my ends. Where's my
Meredith? Kathy is in from Pennsylvania. Welcome to you. So all you.
All right. I'm just trying this out. This is a new thing for me. I'm sure there's like other thread burners that are funner, but or work better. This seems to be all right. There we go. Burn down my ends. So I have 2 bracelets that will stack on my wrist. Oh no. Well, I'm gonna have to fix that. Looks like I'm gonna need a couple extra beads to go all the way around. That's what I get for measuring this way and not this way. Ooh, or will it work this way? I don't know. Aha, it will, but it sure takes some work. All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make this a little bit longer on that end, but I'm gonna do that off camera. In the meantime, Beads to Live By, Curated Collection. And add-on bundles. This one was made just with the seed bead and 2-hole bead Curated Collection, and this one was made with the seed bead, 2-hole bead, and the Czech glass bundle add-on. And I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. Hopefully, if you make these as well, you'll have some fun with them, and you won't make the same mistake I did about the little loop on the closure. But the rest of it works. The rest of it works. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and hopefully I can make more stuff pretty soon. Oh, also, if you like what I'm making or how I'm doing, you can subscribe, and that way you'll be notified when I make more content. It may not all be jewelry. Some of it may be art related, because I also like watercolors and like gouache and all that other stuff, and I'm probably going to be doing more art content as well, but there is also going to be jewelry, because this is something that I enjoy doing and something that I enjoy sharing. So thank you for stopping by. Hit the like, hit subscribe, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.